A solution of class 10 higher mathematics syllabus covered Board of Secondary Education Manipur. Board of Secondary Education Manipur optional subject higher mathematics textbook adugi solution. Sector Statistics solved and presented by Salam Megasan Singh, lecturer Susan Higher Secondary School in Pan. Statistics. Matter. What is matter? Matter is anything that occupies space and can be perceived by our senses. Matter haibasi jaga kanba amasung aikoigi senses singna khangwa ngamba pot adubani. Force. A force is that which senses or tends to change the state of rest or of uniform motion of a body. Body amagi state of rest natraga uniform motion adubu hongalliba natraga honganaba honariba adubu force kawi. Rigid body. A rigid body is one whose size and shape do not alter when acted on by any forces whatsoever, so that the distance between any pair of particles in it remains invariable. Rigid body haibasi adugumba posak adoni mahaki size amasung mawong matawasu karigumba force amana act tobada distance between any two particles to remains invariable pongdana leiragadi adugumba body aduba ikoina rigid body kawi. A perfect rigid body does not exist in nature. Perfect rigid body in nature related slightly makoising say karigumba rigid body ama force amana eto matam mag se phata pongbati yai, but perfect rigid body related. A particle is a body of infinitely small dimensions. Particle haibasi mafam asida particle karigumba body amagi khwaitigi pikpa dimension leiba adugumba pot adubu khanagani. Mechanics. Mechanics is that branch of science which deals with the action of forces on bodies. Mechanics haibasi forces in the body the act over sinimaram nainaba science ki masa adubu khanagani. Dynamics masi mechanics ki branch amani. Dynamics is that part of mechanics which deals with forces which do not neutralize and therefore cause non-uniform motion. Dynamic service mechanics ki masaduni forces na neutralize togaba force na act over the non-uniform motion adubu tugaiba adubu aikoina dynamics haina khanagani. Mafhum asida dynamic service su body aduda forces neutralize togaba forces aduna body adubu motion to non-uniform motion to onba adugumba process ni mamna nainabadubani. Statics masisu mechanics ke anisuba masaduni. Statics is that branch of mechanics which deals with bodies at rest when acted on by forces. Masi statics habisi mechanics ke masamane masi forces na body amade act over matamda at rest laiba haibadi uniform motion at rest purely at rest laigana rest lahenba aduga uniform motion da chaliba body adubuna non uniform motion the uniform motion adum ohenba makata na uniform ohenba adugumba body the actor forces ni maram da nainaba adugani. Mafam asida statics habisi ko nainagadiba parasini dynamics habisi class 9 higher mathematics takhanare statics na hogi class 10 higher mathematics takhanagare. Equilibrium. If a system of forces acting on a body keeps it at rest, then the forces are said to be in equilibrium. Force kayamarum amana body amade act over matam the body adu rest lairabadi adugumba forces singu equilibrium na kawi. At rest haibadi hanagi system da at purely at rest lairgana rest lahenba aduga uniform motion laiba body aduguna force mayam duna act over su uniform motion adubu akaiba pihandrabadi adugumba processing adubu koina equilibrium leiba kawgani. Mathak status ki definition piriba at rest haibasi asigumba equilibrium oiba processing adubani. Representation of a force. Mechanics nainaba matamda force habisi misok mana khangdaba yade aduna force habisi nainaba nungainaba gidamak. A force is a vector quantity, so it is represented by a directed line segment AB with arrowhead. Arrowhead masida koina line segment amada arrow yawba sina force amabu mahut singani. Mechanics ta masi force nainaba nungainaba force habisi vector quantity ni. The principle of transmissibility of a force. Karigumba force amagi mahak point of application adu koina mafam mag line of action leba force amana hekta mahut sinba yai. The effect of a force on a rigid body at any point is unaltered if its point of application is transferred to any other point on its line of action, provided the two points are in the body. Karigumba force ama khangna rigid body amada any point act over se hongoi if karigumba magi line of action da laiba point adu body adu laiba line of action the point amada homo matamda pasibuni when a point of application gi mag panpharmacy hongba yai harisi some special process post makhan kha khangin se weight weight yam tun high. The weight of a body is the force with which the earth attracts the body towards its center. Body amagi weight have a seat force samani hariba force achina body adu prithvi gi mayai sabuk to simsile. Reaction. According to Newton's third law of motion, to every action there is equal and opposite reaction. Newton's third law of motion gi matungina action khudingmaki reaction action khudingmaki manaba pangan manaba amasumai kai di opposite oiba reaction nama legani. Tension. When a string is used to support a weight or to drag a body, kariguma string amana boat ama support toba chungkhatpa natraga body ama chingba matamda the force exerted is transmitted to the body through the string. Such a force exerted by means of a string is called tension. Body string aduna body adubu string aduna body adubu chingbagi phau ama phawi masibu aikona tension called. Resultant and component. If two or more forces act simultaneously on a rigid body, kariguma force ani natraga ani lagi himbasina matam amadara rigid body akan port amade act orabadi, and if a single force can be obtained whose effect on the body is the same as the joint effect of the given process, kariguma force amana body adu the act over the phangiba folduga effect tuga force ka apiba process na act over the folduga same manarabadi, then single force is the resultant of the given process. Single force to for apima mayam singadugi resultant kowe, and the given forces are called the components of the resultant force. Adugumba force apiba process singadubana single force adugi component kowe. Haibadi karigumba ani natraga ani lagi henba forces na matam amata the rigid body the act oraba loin single force amana body adu act obagi effect ka manarabadi. Single force adubu apiba processing adugi resultant kawe aduga apiba processing adubana resultant force adugi components masasang haina khangnagar. Parallelogram law of forcing. If two forces acting on a body are represented in magnitudes, directions, and sense by two adjacent sides of a parallelogram drawn from one of its angular point, then their resultant is represented in magnitude and direction by the diagonal of the parallelogram drawn from the angular point. Karigumba force anina body amade act over the forcing adugi magnitude maikai amasu mayon to triangle parallelogram amagi thangnaba side anina mathang sina point amadi chintorapa side anina maut silabadi makoigi resultant adu angular point adigi singthokpa parallelogram adugi diagonal aduna magnitude ta maikaida amasu mayonda mausingani masibu khona kari kawi parallelogram law of forces kawi. Resultant of two given forces apiba force ani resultant karna puthokadage. Let P and Q be the two forces which are represented by OA and OB. OA amasung OB na karigumba force P amasung Q haiba force anibu magnitude ta maikaida amasung mayu na maut silase, so that angle AOB sigi angle AOB asi sigi angle mabani gi marakta laiba angle asi alpha ni madu alpha do ba ego picture sida kana mabani gi marakta laiba angle do. Complete the parallelogram OACB. OACB haiba parallelogram asi ukuna mapung phan si karamba parallelogram OACB abedo let's see OACB O A C B. Sige parallelogram si mapung phan lesi. then the diagonal OC will represent the resultant force R of P and Q. R is resultant force P amasung Q gi motion gani magnitude tamai kai da amasung mayonda. Let OC make an angle theta with OA. OC haribasina piba force OA natraga OA natraga P asida angle theta semi haina kalasi. Draw CD perpendicular to OA vector OA produce. CD asi OA produce ta natraga OA that's in perpendicular draw to the C. In right triangle ACD, in the right angle ACD asi the angle CAD, C angle C alpha oigani alpha means parallelogram amagi opposite side sing parallel oi aduna corresponding angle C angle C ga angle C ani simana. That is angle C angle C alpha ni C angle C alpha ni so alpha oiga. So that AD haribasi base right angle to BD haribadi ida AD right angle CAD right angle ACD C right angle C base AC AD asi the hypotenuse AC ni yen base the force of angle alpha kaman asimna CD hariba perpendicular sida akhangba AC asmi yen base machine sine of angle alpha kaman adudi hojik C karam lakibage sidage la a then CD as karam la a C triangle ki trigonometry ki formula se palaga lai. By Pythagoras theorem have the right triangle OCD high bar C right triangle hypotenuse to OC square equal to base OD square plus CD square. OCD a capital R represent whereas OD have CD OA plus AD. OAD pin mouse ngane ADD which is just above the AC cos alpha ni. AC asi aikoina AC ACD OB gamane OB di magnitude PQ gi magnitude no mouse ngane Q no mouse ngane Q cos alpha lare then CD have CD whose CD matakta AC sin alpha ni ACD OB gamane OB di Q no mouse ni Q sin alpha manarane then squaring torobadi P square lare C twice of P into Q cos alpha lare C square lare upon matam anisigi Q square kamalotokrasi Q square kamalotokradi cos square alpha plus sin square alpha that becomes 1. Therefore Q square lare CD R square equal to P square plus Q square plus twice PQ cos alpha. R photocopy square taking positive square root on both sides. CD formula na karipi resultant PM Q angle alpha inclined to each other. Adugumba simultaneously act on a body. Also tan theta have the CD asida AD niyan CD asida CD asida OD niyan mani CD has the perpendicular C angle theta CD OCD have a right triangle CD perpendicular CD asida base OD niyan mani then that becomes CD की value DQ sin alpha का मान हो रहे Q sin alpha का मान हो रहे then OD have a CD OA P लेने plus ADD Q cos alpha का मान है this मसी अकोन बसीना resultant की माइके लेकर decision agane. This gives the direction of the resultant force. अकोन बसीना resultant force आहान बसीना resultant force की magnitude resultant force की sigi formula upon the formula sina PM sum Q for apiba portion alpha angle inclined to its other resultant pin of formula. The sigi formula 10 theta equal to Q sin alpha whole divided by P plus Q cos alpha. This gives the result. Sina made direction of the resultant. Corollary if alpha is 90 degree, alpha is 90 degree or the cos sin alpha d, then alpha d cos alpha cos 90 degree 0 and therefore resultant becomes square root of p square plus q square. If alpha is 0 degree, alpha is 0 degree or cos 0 to 1, that becomes a perfect square, p square plus q square plus twice p2 into 1. That becomes resultant becomes p plus q. If alpha is 190 degree, alpha is 190 or cos of 190 degree minus 1, that gives resultant is difference of modulus of p minus q. P amso q की difference na p gan. Asum naksi की corollary since khangadaban. Resolution of a given force into two components. Apiba force amabu component anida thuaiba. Let OC represent the given force R and OX or Y be the two given directions making angles alpha and beta with OC on opposite sides of it along which we are to find the components of R. OC asina apiba force R simamo silelasi mangon angle alpha amasung beta sema maikaida OX amasung OB Y have re ani amaga semasi direction ani amalere then as we put R have a force as makoi animaxi resultant R would represent the OC opposite side to the same side tenati. Complete the parallelogram OACB. Complete parallelogram OACB fallacy with diagonal OC or OC diagonal or sides along OX OY. Then by parallelogram of forces OA and OB represent the required components P and Q having R as their resultant. R resultant or P OA amsung OB P amsung Q haina khangnar makoi ani si R haiba force si maikai ani sto oiba components sing puthokadabadun. In triangle OCA asida angle OCA angle beta ni, then this is angle alpha ni, then what should be this triangle angle only sum 180 ni adu 180 degree we have to subtract alpha plus beta to get this angle. Triangle sigi angle ahuma khangle hane lore angle ahuma khangle adu OC na R na represent tore OA na P na represent tore AC asina Q na represent tore. By sign formula triangle OCA is sign formula sign formula have in a triangle in any triangle the length of the sides of a triangle is proportional to the sine of the corresponding angle. Have the OA the angle beta sine of angle beta ni yenbaga OC the sine of this angle ni yenbaga OA AC the sine of this angle alpha ni yenbaga mane have. That gives OA asida sine of angle beta ni yalani, AC asida sine of angle alpha ni yalani, OC asida sine of this angle sine of pi minus alpha plus beta ni yengani. Then their respective OAD P namo silo, ACD Q namo singrabani, OCD R namo singre sine of pi minus alpha plus beta is sine of alpha plus beta pang. Digi koi P asi in terms of R alpha beta the pong. Therefore first ka last ka man P equal to R sine beta by sine of alpha plus beta. So sigma man Q equal to R times sine alpha divided by sine of alpha plus beta. How's P have C R alpha beta the pong api with the pong. Q have a component is R alpha beta the pong. How's P amasung Q alpha amasung beta semba R have force sigi nakal opposite nakal leba component ani adu putol. Resolution of a force into two perpendicular components. Hojiki deduction karigumba force amabu perpendicular over make anida labor component and the resolve parts in Kowi. If alpha plus beta is 90 degree in the above case, the components are called resolved parts of the force. The resolved parts of force are R, P, R, force alpha. The sine of alpha plus beta, that is sine of 90, the method of formula of 1 or over Q so R of sine alpha divided by sine of alpha plus beta di 1 R sine alpha da single labadi sin sine alpha le. Theorem: the algebraic sum of the resolved parts of any two forces acting at a point along any direction is equal to the resolved part of their resultant in that direction. Karigumba force anigi anigi mai akakna maike point amadi ek toba force anigi maike amado oiba resolve part sing sum adu hariba force ani adugi resultant ki maike ju mokhleba resolve part kamana gan. Let's see and see. As picture is here, let OA and OB represent the two forces P and Q acting at a point O. OA amasung OB asina force P amasung Q bu mathang sinama force P amasung Q bu mathang sinama hosulusi point A de act tawi hariba force ani ase. Complete the parallelogram OACB. Hariba parallelogram OACB. The parallelogram sima pung palasi. Then the diagonal OC represent the resultant force R. OC asina P amasung Q gi resultant force mausulani parallelogram law of forces na. Let OX be a line drawn in any direction through O and let OL or OX haribasi konare amane O paraga satpa let AL haibamane BM haibamane CN haibamane be the perpendiculars drawn on it from A, B, C respectively so that OL, OM, ON represent the resolved parts of P, Q, and R along OX. OX may kay asida. OX may kay sliba forcing a sige resolved part of Mausilani. We have OM hybasi, AB Gasangamane, AB Asimo, LN Gamane. Now ON equal to ON hybasi can I resolve pano ON hybasi OL plus NN. OL length na thamasi LND AD na mahusilo OM na maramdi LND kanaga manhawi OM na mahusindo kana matakta jikari phangai thus ON asina result makoi resultant gi result part ni OS ki mai ke dalaiba OL asina P gi result part ni same OX ki mai ke dalaiba then OM asina kana result part no Q haiba force si gi result part ni OS ki mai ke dalaiba. Thus, the resolved part of the resultant R along OX equal to algebraic sum of the resolved parts of P and Q along OX. Hariba theorem is a proof to masibu higher studies that very non-steering code. Triangle law of forces or triangle of forces. If three forces acting at a point B such as can be represented in magnitude, direction, and sense by three sides of a triangle taken in order. Karigumba point amade ek toba force ahumadu magnitude mai ke amasung mayon da triangle amagi mathang triangle amagi sides na mathang manaw na mahut silabadi. Then the forces are in equilibrium. Adugumba force ahum da P have a force to A digi B sali, Q have a force to B digi C de sali, R have a force to C digi A de sali. Karigumba point amade the body amade ek toba force ahum adu mai ke the magnitude mai ke da magnitude ta mai kai da ma sumayo na mathang manaw na amagi mathang da ma opposite lakana ta mai kai ka force khara mai kai ama da pulap chatlabadi adugumba force ahum de equilibrium na legani they do not affect on the body adugi hana state of rest or state of uniform motion honganba kauge heaven. Converse of triangle of forces. If three forces acting at a point B in equilibrium, then they can be represented in magnitude, direction, and sense by the three sides of a triangle taken in order. Karigumba point amade ek toba force ahum adu equilibrium na leirabadi makoi singada magnitude mai kaida amasung mayon da triangle amagi side singa mathang manaw na mau simang ngangani habe. Resultant of several coplanar forces simultaneously acting at a point. Karigumba force kaya maro mama na body ama da point ama da mata mama tari ek torobadi madu resultant putoksi. If a body possesses a number of coplanar forces simultaneously, karigumba body ama da matam ama da plane ama da force maya mamu ek toholabadi, their resultant can be determined on replacing every one of them by its resolved parts along two conveniently chosen of mutually perpendicular lines and compounding them together. Haibadi karigumba body amada coplanar oiba matam amata da force kamam ek torobadi makhoi resultant ada apama mai da resolve toraga matra perpendicular mai resolve toraga function laga resultant to pungbani. You can see sigi OL amasung OL amasung OP hariba maiki ani sida P1 O hariba point sida P1 hariba force na ectore angle OL da theta 1 seme P2 hariba force asina OL da angle theta 2 seme O P3 hariba force asina O da ectore OL da mahang na angle theta 3 seme asumna force camera ama O hariba point leba body is the ectole simultaneously then P1 P2 P3 summa koi puno musi coplanar ni. Let the force particle at O has forces P1, P2, P3, so on, making angles theta 1, theta 2, theta 2 dot with OL. Let X, capital X and capital Y be the sum of the components of forces along OL and OP respectively. Then X to the P1 level kanodi kamagi result OL the level OL gi make the level result part P1 cos theta 1 assume P2 plus P2 cos theta 2 plus P3 cos theta 3. So on, and Y values to P1 sin theta 1 plus P2 sin theta 2 plus P3 sin theta 3 plus dot. The resultant force R is R square equal to X plus Y square. Karigina single sagi corollary hambama palibidi force P result part and force and X and Y result parts in component level perpendicular or beginning. Then sin theta dy by X theta is the angle between R and X, R among S to marakta resultant aduga R S to X have a result parts in a single sum semen. Corollary. The necessary and sufficient condition for the equilibrium of the concurrent and coplanar forces are X equal to 0 and Y equal to 0. Karigumba concurrent point amada unaba coplanar or coplanar amasum point amada unaba forces singase gi darkar sung sang the way other film sung the Makoi components in the zero or the Makoi sing the equilibrium the legan. Equilibrium the concurrent forces. Concurrent and coplanar forces in the equilibrium the lane never give the Makadi darkar or Bama sung Matuksar about Pulviti X equal to 0 and Y equal to 0 tagada. Exercise 8.1 statics. Find the magnitude of the resultant of the following pair of forces inclined to each other at the given angle. Tries 3 newtons, so 4 newtons की force any point of the angle 60 degree inclined to the resultant photography. Magnitude of the resultant photography. We have to here P is 3 times and Q is 4 and alpha is 60 degree. Haribo values therefore resultant are equal to square root of P square plus twice PQ cos alpha. PM so Q respective value is cos 60 the half. Simplify thoroughly we get square root of 37 newtons unit forcing in unit single newtons or a value meters 30 square root of 37 newtons or assume the Roman number 2 P is 10 kg weight and Q is 3 times root 2 kg weight and the angle between them alpha is 45 degree. Using the same formula and giving their respective value, cos 45 is 1 by 2. Cancel we get this is what 10 5 with 10 100 like then 2 to 215. The square root is 5 times the square root of 10 kg weight. Forcing you need to kg weight. Here P is also 24 and Q is a 7 and alpha is 90 degree. Therefore, R equal to P square plus Q square plus twice PQ into cos alpha. And simplifying, we get 625 whose square root is 25. For Q unity Newton, N means capital N oigada Newton obviously 25 N oigani. All in magnitude of direction walking Canada. Here P is also 5 and Q is also 9 and alpha is 120. Therefore, resultant R is equal to P square plus Q square plus twice PQ cos 120. Cos 120 whose value is minus half. Cancel we get square root of 61 newtons. Number 5. Here P is 5 kg weight and I kg weight and Q is 4 root 3 kg weight and alpha angle between them is 150. Therefore, resultant R is equal to P square plus Q square plus twice PQ into cos 150 degree. Cos 150 degree is equal to minus cos 30. Cos 30 degree is minus root 3 by 2. Cancelling, we get this number whose value is square root of degree. This must be square root. This must be square root. Fork is the wet. Find the resolved parts of each of the following process whose inclination to one of the resolved part is given alongside. Find the resolved parts of each of the following process whose inclination to one of the resolved part is given alongside. Haibadi force amakak 16 newtons pyramid maduga mahaki 30 degree maikay December resolved part kuma pyramid atopa 30 degree 60 degree later. Then resolved part here P is a 16 and alpha is 30 degree. Therefore, the resolved parts are the whose formula is P cos alpha into and P sin alpha. P is what? P is 16 into cos 30 degree and 16 into sin 30 degree. Whose values are respectively this I root 3 n and I n. These are the resolved parts of the cos P whose value is 16n. Similarly, for the next is P is 50 kg weight, alpha is 60 degree. Therefore, the resolved parts are 50 into cos 60 and 50 into sin 60. It must be 60. 60 or whatever. Then cos 60 is half and sin 60 is root 3 by 2 cancelling. We get 25 kg weight and 25 times of root 3 kg weight. Here P is 20 n and alpha is 120 degree. Therefore, the resolved parts are 20 into cos of 120 degree and 20 into sin of 120 degree. Cos 120 degrees value is minus half newtons and the sin 120 is root 3 by 2. Eventually, we get minus 10 n and 10 times root 3 n. Resolved parts are this. Resolved parts are for second one, 5 root 2 cos 135 degree and 5 root 2 times of sin of 135 degree. If this is equal to minus 1 by root 2, this is equal to 1 by root 2. Cancelling, we get minus 5 kg weight and 5 kg weight. Find the angle between two equal forces P when their resultant is equal to P. Equal forces means forces with equal magnitude. Mafam asida equal forces hairagadi magnitude manaba forces mo. P amsung P haiba for equal forces ani resultant su P ni maba force ani digi marakto leba angle puto haibani. Here R is also P, P is also P, Q is also P, alpha what? We have to use this formula. R is P Pisilani, Q is P Pisilani, PDP and Pisilani, from which we have to solve cos alpha. In for cos alpha is what? Minus 130 is cos 120 degree, alpha 120 degree. Force ani adu ki marakala idaba angle do. Let's see and see. Sizu P ni then makoy resultant of C opposite P. Sila P orani, P orani, then C makoy resultant of P minus Pila no security. P maraki angle 120, C 120, C 120. Force ani ki marakala angle sa 120 degree or two forces acting at an angle 60 degree have a resultant equal to 2 root 3 kg weight. If one of the forces is 2 kg weight, find the other. Resultant put opposite formula which is in alpha is 60, R is this, P is this, Q is what? We have to use this formula giving their respective values and we have to solve Q. Q solve the one quantity equation in Q from a factorize, we get Q equal to 2 and minus 4. Q equal to kg weight, therefore Q equal to kg weight or two equal forces act on a particle mapangan manaba force ani body amade act to find the angle between them if the square of their resultant is equal to the 3 times their product. Forcing adugi square singi resultant aduga makoi gi product ki 3 times ka manarabadi angle putu hagen. Let P be is equal to equal force ani do minimum to P ni loxology, then their resultant is 3 into P into P makoi gi product ki 3 times ka manarabadi makoi resultant do. Resultant kana ore using r square equal to this we get 3p r that is 3p square pisilani p lagere equal force on q this p or any 3p q p or any from which we have p square divide the total the cos alpha is half or the cos 60 letter alpha 60 letter cos ani adu manaba force ani gi marak angle de 60 or any. Find the magnitudes of the two forces such that if they act at right angles, their resultant is this. If they act at an angle of 60 degrees, their resultant is this. Karigumba force ani na right angle the act of the resultant do square root of 10 newtons oigani aduga. And maraki angle to 60 or the makoi resultant is square root of 13 newtons oigani. Force ani do put to heaven. Let P and Q be the two forces, then the resultant formula from which we get an equation involving P and Q. Equation 1 follows say, and it's Maraki angle to 60 pixel. We have an equation involving P and Q. PM simply of equation Maga Pange, Masida Equina P square plus Q square equation 1 of over direct singularity P Q will be product of P or equation 2. We never 3 or Moko squares in the sum not 10 tab having. Then 3 in 1. Equation 2 so 1 is the level method Q was a 3 by P and P we get a quadratic P squared or P squared to find x squared from the quadratic equation x factorize this learning x equal to 9 or 1 x with P square equal to 3 square x square equal to 1 square from which P equal to 3 or 1 P value P meter 1 or any P in 0 with the Q or P in 3 or the equation 2 the pixel with the Q the value 1 or any P no 1 or the equation 2 the pixel with the Q the value 3 or any. Therefore, P equal to thrice N and Q equal to 1 and force another 3 newtons per 1 newtons per Oigen. 7. The greatest and the least resultant of two forces of given magnitudes acting at a point are 16 kg weight and 4 kg weight respectively. Find the magnitude of their resultant when they act an angle of 60 degrees with one another. Karigumba force anikak apiba force anikak ki Pwede sauba amasung pwede pipa resultant at the 16 kg weight amasung 4 kg weight oirabadi masang sina resultant at the force ani adugi resultant da makoi ani gi marakta 60 over matam na kaya oikade gi hangmani adu PM Q hana solve to the way. Let P and Q be weight be the two forces such that P is greater than Q. Then pixels the P makoi ani gi marakta Makoi negi pwede solve resultant yung mawani gi samna P gani P plus 2 to 16 kg weight earning that is equation 1 to list the mawani gi difference P na sa aura na P minus Q na 4 list the mawani gi difference ki magnitude no oigani adu makoi ani yung P na Q di sa aura na P di Q kaido kani 4 ta equation 2 ani jo tinsinari 16 ni kaido na 4 ni clearly masigi 1 amasing 2 ka tinsinari P gi value 10 oire P gi value 10 oirabadi equation 1 na tinjila then P no 1 kg weight or Q na 6 kg weight or then the 6 ka tensionary 16 ka yam line har then the resultant protoxy again require resultant force to be P square the 10 square is Q square the 6 square is twice P Q into cos alpha is 60 degree pair okay cos ani degree mera angle is 60 or the resultant protoxy simplified or we get 14 kg weight pangan. Two forces act at an angle of 120 degrees. If the greater force is IP newtons and the resultant is at right angles to the smaller, find the smaller force. Karigumba force anigi marakta angle 120 lere asoba force aduna 60 IT newtons ore madugi makoi gi resultant na smaller force adu the right angle semi smaller force to put to U heaven. Let P and Q be the two forces such that Q is greater than P. Then Q equal to IT newtons or Q no pi degree south. Let P be the smaller force, then Q equal to IT newtons and P su adum orani P do mafam asida Q na IT ore. Then P what? IT newtons P sin greater force to Q ore badi Q lagare. Then 10 theta ki formula sizinarani si ki formula se koina 10 theta de din mana 90 pirani aduga P sin alpha P sin this must be Q sin alpha the respective P IT pirani solve torani ko solve to matamda P ki value jo 40 newtons oigani smaller force to 40 newtons oigani two forces equal to twice P and P respectively act on a particle if the first is double and the second is increased by 12. The direction of the resultant remains unaltered. Find the value of P. Twice PM to P above force and C particle number the 8 to first force twice P is double or above second as in 12 angle over the Makoy resultant to form Hanagi given the Lagani. Find the value of P heaven. For the first case, tan theta is twice P sin alpha by P plus twice P cos alpha, from which tan theta equal to this question 1. For the second case, tan theta is double twice P hana equals to be twice P double hengat pahagini sini ani suba force aduna mapangal 12 increase tawbani angle ani sumna sidi equation ani sidi equation ani sipange 1 amsung 2 de tan theta mana rabadi aikona right ani simana halani right ani malo ahamba P common lopogre or lopopayadre. Then cross multiply, we get this, and from which we have solved P value 12, find the value of P value to 12 already. Then, if the resultant of two forces acting on a particle be at right angles to one of them, and its magnitude be 1/3 of the magnitude of the other, so that the ratio of the larger force to the smaller is 3:2 times of root 2. If the resultant of two forces acting on a particle be at right angles to one of them and its magnitude be 1/3 of the magnitude of other, karigumba force anigi resultant aduna makoigi force aniguda amada right angle seme mahaki magnitude no 1/3 of the magnitude of the other atopa force adugi right angle seme force aduna tab atopa force adugi 1/3 ga mane resultant force tuna, so that the ratio of the larger force to the smaller larger force ta smaller force no and the ratio to 3:2 times root 2 oigani ullu haibet force ani khak law si P na Q de gi sahul la si when P na Q so the smaller P Q smaller Q asida is the R na 90 degrees similar si. Let alpha be the angle between them, then tan theta is P sin alpha by Q plus P cos alpha, from which tan theta the theta the 90 pixel 1/0 ka manare 1/0 1 siga purin 0 is question 1. Also resultant photopagi formula se amuk si, then from which R equal to 1/3 of P equation 2 ahum phange ahum sidagi ekona karan solve tawani from 2 equation 2 da 2 yaw ba formula se na se pisel si cos alpha di kya ga mane cos alpha di P cos alpha d minus Q common equals to 1 and 2 residual using this. Then from which we get P square minus Q square function. Then P R d kaya money 1/3 of P, that is R square d P square by 9. Then equation using 6 is nare. Sidigi amok point kaya function P square common lopo karani Q square equal to D. From which point kaya function then CD P is to Q equal to 3:2 times of root 2 hence proof. The resultant of forces P and Q is R if Q is double and if Q is reverse. If Q is double and if Q is reverse, R is again double. So that is. Let's see and see one symbol Q is double or body Q is reverse or the R double or even heaven. Result PM so Q resultant R ni formula then twice R. Resultant double oigani have an R do I can twice R pixelani P square Q is double already Q the twice Q is in so Q the twice Q is in from which we get equation 2. Again see equation simplify to already for R square and P square Q square reverse or beginning. Q is double R is again double. And see equation ahum sidagi aikoina PQR asugi value se putokani. 1 ga 3 ga tinsinare 1 ga 3 ga tinsinare we get this pange. Then sidagi aikoina PQR square gi relation nama pange. So equation 2 the 2 times equation 3 half so we get sima pangani. This is equation 5 pange. Then 4 ga 5 gi cross multiplication toraga for p square by something, q square by something, r square by something put to then square root log so p by root 2 q by root 2. Resolve a force of 50 Newton into two forces making angles of 90 degree and 45 degree with it on opposite side. 50 Newtons have a seat 90 and 45 degree same make it labor opposite sides in the same by resolve person to put to U heaven. Here R is 50 Newton, alpha is 90 degree, beta is 45 degree. Therefore P when see formula is resolve heaven, resolve parts not resolve for the C formula sinani R 50 pisulani and beta 45 pisulani okay sine of 90 plus 45 will put over 50 newtons pang q su haribo same formula sinagani then mark alpha value the mapam 90 sinarani then we get 50 times of root 2 newtons pang resolve makoi ni sinat to resolve parts. If a force P is resolved into two component forces and if one component is at right angle to the pole and equal to it in magnitude, find the magnitude and direction of the other component. Force P as a component and it's to right of the one component amana haribo force to the right angle same body and equal to it in magnitude to manner of the find them from magnitude direction of the other component at top component to the magnitude direction put to heaven. Here using Q this you see the formula association P the R the equal to P pixel sine alpha the 90 pixel alpha the 90 pixel of beta the beta the 90 pixel then we get P by cos alpha function. This one and then the resultant put up the formula association marak angle 90 plus alpha over then see the P square की value the PB P square करना उसी P square ना करने में कितना करें P square ले रहे 0 plus P square C twice PQ minus sin alpha ले रहे then see the Q square equal to twice PQ sin alpha then twice PC की दी क्या Q cos alpha की question one है Q cos alpha से Q cos alpha से P निश्चिंतो करो Q cos alpha से P निश्चिंतो करो बदे P की twice पहले Q sin alpha Q sin alpha do finish in opening PD cos me. Then cos to make sin alpha like sin. See using one is no be marong karigina. See the alpha. Cos alpha. See the Q cos alpha ni see the Q sin alpha. Let's see and see twice P square. Then Q equal to square root of 2 times of P. From 1 the equation the cos alpha the P by Q. P by twice Q then 1 half like this is cos 45. Alpha 45 or at over force to root 2 times of P or forces P and Q whose resultant is R at a point O. Force PM to Q McCoy resultant R a point over the X to if any transversion cuts the line of action of the process PQR at the points L, M, N respectively, then so they P by OL plus Q by OM plus R by ON. Proof to draw O hariba point is the X over force P the my line of action is seen the force Q the line of action is seen the McCoy resultant in Mabani Marata power line O and Sigi Makai the Karigumba McCoy line of action in a Sibu Kakpa, Karigumba line of action in a Sibu Karigumba line of Manakakle. I will line in a Kakle Makuba Matansina, P Buna, L da, Q Buna, M da, to the resultant Buna in the Kakle. Draw OY ray perpendicular to L and M. See line when perpendicular sing OY have a line amakak makoy line of action bukakpa line aduda at the perpendicular drop to the resolved parts of P on OY P haribasigi OY gi makudir labor resolved part P plus Q gi that of Q on OY labor resolved part to be equal to resolved part of this resulting resolved part of R on Y makoyna aroiba theory ama aina Bernoulli's theorem haina khangna badu laiga se Bernoulli's theorem hamdre theorem adu panjalman then P karigumba force me resolve party force adugi magari semba angle doga sigma P gi labor resolve party cos of alpha sigi cos P sigi part base sida hypotenuse asni yelaga the OD do OM yemaga managani R Q की resolve party C की OD asida O M ने जन्म का माना है plus और C की resolve part resultant की resolve part O Y के मैं कहते ले बदी OD asida O N ने जन्म का माना है then मथक तक की कोई ना OD कमलो फोकरा अतोली P by OL plus Q by OM plus equal to R by OM hence proof 15 forces equal to thrice 3 Newton, 4 Newton, 5 Newton, and 6 Newton act on a particle in directions respectively due south, due north, south, east, and west. Find the magnitude and direction of the resultant. Force Maria in a particular act away north, south, east, west, the mathang cinema, resultant amasum magnitude to masi concurrent and coplanar forces ki sagat ki theory madugi direct application. Let X and Y be the sum of the resolved parts of the process due east and north respectively. Processing adugi north east ta amasung north ta labor resolved parts in the sum do mathang singa X amasung Y na khangna rasi. As in this picture X the 5 PD ahan bada 5 P hana putwe 5 cos 0 degree leading east the 5 8 over 5 cos 5 cos 2 ga cos of angle between the angle purina gani 5 cos 0 degree and 3 kd 3 cos of this angles in like plus 6 kd 6 into cos of this 190 like 4 kd from the last year 4 cos of 270 like okay the respective values in photography we get -1 part so no y is mathaki cos is sin on top of the value at the sense of the sin on top of value unit that is CQ -1 pang X and Y can the resultant the resultant part the square root of x square plus y square perpendicularly act over beginning the square root of root 2 or any McCoy resultant the root 2 or any root 2 newtons or any magnitude the motor direction day using tan theta equal to y by x respectively 1 see the curve make hypoducony and mutare 1 CD 10 of CD matung in a day force to some the saw on the lacan so my CD 190 plus 45 that is 190 10 to 190 degree plus 45 or 10 45 or 10 45 is from the second matamadu mabani as minus or the yaki and the x value -1 have the sum the actor we have any y value -1 have the sum the actor we have any force degree resultant the sum the second force ani dugi mai kai marak the second aduna ni the life say 180 degree plus 45 that is that's theta equal to 225 thus the resultant force is root 2n and x due southwest it is south ni west ni marak the actor ni southwest the actor forces equal to 1 kg weight 2 kg weight and root 3 kg weight act at a point A in the direction APAQ AR respectively if PAQ 60 degree, PAR angle between them is 90 degree. Find a magnificent direction of the resultant. This force of the body is the act of receive. Makoy act of magnification do I point out. Let X and Y be the resultant force act along resultant force. Some of the resultant force act along AP and AR. AP and AR you make the act of forcing result part to some do X some Y and log jealousy. Then x equal to 1 cos of 0 degree plus 2 cos of 60 degree plus root 3 cos of 90 degree. Makoy respective value putos to putos ng y so cos to mag sinus do kani mama mas matong degree mas numbers ni ho. So na value puto matong the 2 root 3 lare. Then resultant puto kaya di formula si sinagani resultant 4 or a magnitude direction the work the formula signal y root 3 the 10 16 karigina 10 60 the x and y will possible from the sat have any positive resultant the compulsory sigi mabani ki marak tole bas power ne positive ani yana rabanina root 3 la 10 60 or this give adugumba result makoi singi resultant adu 60 degree sorry 4 kg weight oigani aduga maikai 60 degree same one sigi 1 chappa sigi maikai da thus the resultant force kg weight x in the direction aq gi maikai the same resultant aq gi maikai the same forces to 2p thrice p and 4p act at a point in directions parallel to the sides of an equilateral triangle taken in order so that the magnitude of the resultant is root 3p. Hariba force ahuma sina equilateral triangle amagi side singa parallel on a to maikei amakakada makoi resultant na the c organic root 3 times of p organic ulu haiban. ABCD an equilateral triangle twice p thrice p 4p act along BCCAAB as in this picture see that's one act the whole parallel oina. Let x and y be the sum of the resolved parts of the process along BC when perpendicular to BC. Then x the twice p cos of 0 degree thrice p cos of 180 degree minus 60 degree. Same angle set, same angle 180 or 65 to see angle 60 then 4p the cos of minus same angle from the 180 plus 60 or 180 plus 60 how do we see value put see aikoina my si phangan asumno y si su hanagi cos khaktang 0 degree si 0 no oigedabani 0 degree oigedabani it must be 0 degree. Now y is so value putoga si phangani then makoi resultant the maybe so the resultant the c formula sina for root 3 times of p or hence proof. Forces of magnitudes 1 2 3 4 5 respectively act at the angular point a of a regular hexagon ABCDEF towards the other angular point taken in order so that the magnitude of the resultant is this value and tan theta is this, where theta is the angle which the resultant makes with AB. Is in this picture is C 1 2 3 4 5 haribar any magnitude make 1 2 3 4 5 hariba my case the regular hexagon A B C D E F hariba C regular hexagon C hariba side amas diagonal sing asida mathang sina act tawre each angle of the hexagon angle kuning makaya oigade hexagon la triangle kya lai 1 2 3 4 the 4 letter very 4 is 6 minus 2 in total number angles to 180 by how many equal angles angle kuning mag loina mane adidi sum man of upon angles 1 2 3 4 5 6 may yelani angle kuning mag 120 or let x and y be the sum of the resolved parts of the process along AC and AF respectively. Then xt kaya we're going to xt x1 into cos of 0 degree or xt1 into cos of 0 degree current 1 mana cos of 0 degree like this. X to can argue make x to AC make x to can argue make x to 1 upon AB towards the other angular point in order. X in angular point A of regular hexagon AB towards the other angular point. Sorry, AB naman sige make it set AB CD AB we get over AB AC. Let's see the AB AC lali cos 30 degree 1 ga cos 0 degree ga 2 ga cos angular points in the 1 2 3 4 this is not AB or whatever the mistake I'm learning AB or this is AB ꯑꯗꯨꯗꯤ 1 of cos 0 degree 1 of cos 0 degree, then 2 cos of 30 degree, 3 cos of 60 degree, 4 cos of 90 degree, 5 cos of 120 degree. So resultant to C value sing puthuani, then we get this value C value function of y so sakano khuding makta cos khuding makta sin katong on to value putokan. The resultant is C formula palani simplify tara, we get 2 times of this. And the angle between the let theta be the angle made by AB with tan theta is y by x and C values in the p. Ida koina khangsinga dabadi asai gi resultant putokoda theta gi basi resultant is the putokara basi gi method. You make a job person is your part of the and perpendicular. P30 ni, P60 ni, P90 ni, P120. The resultant of two forces P and Q is √3 Q at an angle 30 degree with P, so that P equal to Q or P equal to twice Q. P amsung Q have a force and its resultant to √3 times of Q ni. P ga resultant ga same angle so 30 degree or P ko manabaya P ga twice Q ga. Let's see and see the program see. We have resultant formula system na see pangane. Then see how many unknowns P ne Q ne alpha ne unknown ohmi yaure. Then angle between them adugumba resultant aduna P the same angle to theta 30 ni adu tan theta ki formula sin 30 is equal to alpha the length we get an equation to the C equation ama phang equation ani phang. Applying sine formula in triangle ABC sine formula have the triangle ama gi sizing a sang boda sine of the corresponding angles ni yembagi ratio ahum du mane have ni formula panchala si triangle ABC the pandri ni AB have side is sine of this angle ni yalani BC hariba side a CD karana Q go BC hariba side the sine of angle 30 ni yangani, then C AC hariba side is the sine of this angle 180 degree alpha kaido karo 180 degree alpha kaido karo when BC angle C 180 degree kamana alpha la igama, then C angle the alpha ni 180 degree alpha log C 90 ni ABD peninsula BCD Q ni silani ado ACD √3 Q ni singani. Sine of alpha minus 30 is sine alpha minus 30, sine 30 the half means the sine of alpha gamma. Then from which we get from last two members, RO member and it's the Q mahangani alpha to 60 degree lerani. And equation 1 the singular equation 1 the alpha value we get an equation P Q equation number phang P Q ga madudagi akona kari phanga haragadi so factorize for P equal to Q and P equal to twice Q. But wahang dari P equal to Q have the minute to me. P equal to twice Q is mafamasya tabang amdre. Then sigili policy atopa technique amada mo tabang ambre yes. P equal to Q, Q equal to P equal to minus twice Q is false. Simadilal. The resultant of two forces P and Q is √3 Q at an angle 30 degree with P as hajiki wahang duga chamana magi or ni masisu yengsi. Or 19 ni signal formula say popularizing the standards to Yaubi. Let P and Q be represented by AB and AD of parallelogram ABCD. P and Q cinema parallelogram. So that AC represent their resultant √3 Q and mismatch 30 degree with P the 30 degree same. Let ABD. The angle say angle BAD alpha ni then BC have siga AD have siga sound manner makoi kuduma Q warani. Using cosine formula in triangle ABC the cosine formula signagani. Cosine formula ABC karino have do not up picture magi. Cos of this angle BAC angle ki cos hai kaya gamana bagi haragadi AB square plus BAC square minus BC square whole divided by twice of into AB into AC. then b s is 30 degree pisingro respective value pisilla icon solve torane so no sigi equation ji phanga factorize toro p equal to q p equal to 2 exact result phang but cosine formula cd class 10 hai mathematics tamasi note on see how the formula on see how the cosine formula is out of syllabus for cos a is equal to b square plus c square minus a square by twice bc symbols appear equation meaning b have a sine karibu khangna ke b have a versus opposite side bc sambo b na khangna gane sorry a b have a sine b side triangle abc the b angle c ke opposite side ac ke sambo khangna gane c have a sine c versus opposite side ab ke sambo khangna gane then a have a sine a versus b side opposite side bc ke sambo khangna gane adu twice bc a have a sine angle ac bu khangna gane b uragana angle b capital letters since na triangle vertex ke angle sin khangna gane small letters since sina corresponding vertex to the opposite side singa sangbo khangna gane haribo si syllabus ta yauge adu problem si solve tawna bagi damakta di si na